Let's give it a shot.
Here we go. Welcome to the Sports Wrap. Final Wednesday and Thursday. What is it?
It's Thursday.
It's final Thursday in October, I think, for our show. We might squeeze in one more October one, I guess. It's only the 24th, I'm thinking.
I've got my summer clothes on. I still don't wear socks because I don't like socks, but it was nice enough. And Sue and I went on the other side of the river over to the Manitou Mounds and had lunch over there along this afternoon.
Okay.
This extremely historic site. We had never had lunch there before, but you can actually see and feel the antiquity that's there. This has been there for thousands of years. This community and so for a couple of hours, I immersed myself in the native traditions and really had a great time. It was really nice. They have a nice museum over there, a great restaurant. They give you your fish sandwiches on fry bread. So they're real good.
So it was real good.
Yeah. So anyway, get a chance to go over. They're only going to be serving lunch for another week, but come back next spring and go over there. It's quite a place. Really worth the trip.
Okay.
Anyway, so much.
Yeah, I was also on the road today, but I went south. Or I was south and watched the cross country meet, the section cross country meet, and of course there was rain forecast for the afternoon, and it just kept getting nicer and nicer and nicer. By the time I left, about 1:15ish or so, it was 60 degrees. The sun was shining brilliantly, and
kids were having fun.
Lola Hall from the Falls came in 14th, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I took a quick picture of it and posted it online. Missed going to state by 3 spots. So, but she was sitting when I quit watching her about mid-race because they went up into the woods and I can't make it back into the woods that far. Anyway, she was in 21st place, so she made a good finish. So the girls, I think, ended up taking like 9th place as a team, and the boys ended up 12th, I think. So again, those are our estimates, but it was an absolute glorious day in Coleraine. Yeah.
Nice finishes.
So we'll take it. Greenway's going in both boys and girls. Took second, I think, in both the boys and the girls.
Who's coaching the crew?
For the Falls?
Yeah.
Cheryl Hendrickson.
Okay.
And Jen Erickson.
Couldn't get better.
Yeah. So, Greenway went in boys and girls, and then Southridge for the boys, and was it Ely? Anyway. I was there. You would think I should know the results, but I left before the results became finals. So, anyway, there we go. So, well, what's foremost on your mind that you would like to discuss this week?
It's really hard today because Sunday was not a good day for sports.
Because?
Well, I mean, first off, although I don't think they played their definitive game. The Vikings lost, and so they got kicked out of the things, and they lost to Detroit, which should have come as no surprise. And I got a question for you on this: have we got used to the Detroits and the Indianas at their mediocrity, and are overlooking the fact that they could both improve? Because I think Detroit's really a fine football team, and they came back.
But that also makes Minnesota a fine football team,
they
right?
do. I'm not taking anything away from them. That's why I say it's not definitive. But you watch this Detroit team, and they're nobody to fool with this year.
Well, I think the biggest thing is Jared Goff. He was 12 for 12 before he had an incompletion.
Yeah.
2 weeks before that, when they played at Dallas. He was 18 for 18 for the game.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy, I think, who's making good decisions. Obviously, he's getting protected, and he's got receivers who can get open. But they can also run the football, which obviously we've talked about that how many times on this show. That's what is making the Vikings as good as they are, because they can run and pass the football. No, take nothing away. The Vikings.
4 straight drives in which they scored a touchdown. And that tells me the offense is really churning out pretty good stuff. And that also tells me, they found some cracks in the defense. Now, I know that Dallas Turner isn't playing, and some of the rest of their edge rushers aren't playing. But up until this point, that defense has always kind of carried through. And I'm not just saying that they didn't, but they allowed one too many scores. And
well, I gotta say, I was expecting a severe backlash on Monday from people talking about the game. There was none of that. I think people understand Detroit's a good team. The Vikings got up 10-0. They got a gift on a stupid decision by a coach who makes dumb decisions. I'm sorry, Dan Campbell. I got on blue for you today, I guess, and I'll just tell you, it's dumb. What are you telling your team when you fake punt on the first series of the game inside your own 40-yard line? You're telling your team, I don't think we can win. That's what you're telling me. If I'm your player, you're telling me I don't think we can win straight up. We have to do something crazy to win. He used to have to do that. He used to have to play that way when his team was coming in, was getting better. He doesn't need to do those kinds of things anymore.
And I mean, the week before, just to kind of show where he's coming from, they were playing Dallas, and towards the end, and they were beating Dallas up. He was running trick plays to score more points. And it's kind of like, in the big leagues, you generally don't do that. You play that thing legitimate, because you know that someday this may come back to haunt. Now, one of the guys I want to bring up, and you're going to you'll appreciate this, but Will Richard, if he isn't the finest pickup for the Vikings that I've seen in a long time, he, folks, is their kicker. And he's a rookie from Alabama, and he has got a golden foot. And he is not only hitting his field goals, I mean, they were talking about whether or not that he should be out there for a 58-yarder and a 67-yard kick now.
I seriously thought, and some people might laugh at me out there, but the field goal at the end of the game would have been 72 yards.
Yes. Yeah.
I seriously thought they might just say, let's see what happens. But having said that, 72 yards is a heck of a kick.
It would have plumped right in.
And I don't think he would have made it. But was that better than the opportunity that they had where poor Sam got sacked within about a half a second?
Well, the fact of it is that he has this kind of talent that they can utilize. And, I mean, there's every other team in the league wishing that they had kickers like that. He hasn't missed. And if you noticed, every one of his kicks sliced them right down the middle of the cake. They're excellent.
He's been pretty accurate.
So he's one boy from Alabama. I'm glad to see him come north.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any problems with what happened on Sunday. The Vikings again got that gift early in the game with the punt and scoring, and then got the field goal, and I think everybody thought, wow, we got this game under control. Well, obviously Detroit is as good as.
And so I look at that whole thing. You're at home. You've got the crowd behind you. It's all there. It's a missed opportunity, and you get these in that league.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just some very good football teams have gone down and defeated home against teams I shouldn't say that they should have beaten, but a team that's going to give them a good game. And right now, who's to say Detroit isn't the second or third best team in the league? So they're all kind of packed.
Who are you saying is the best?
Really hard to say on that NFL team. I mean, it's just hard to say.
I mean, there's only one undefeated team, right?
Yeah.
So they got to be number one, right?
Kansas City. Yeah, I'm just talking about the NFC.
Oh, the NFC.
Yeah, I know the AFC. Unfortunately.
Well, you said the NFL. That's why I was wondering.
Okay.
I was kind of wondering if you were putting Detroit possibly ahead of Kansas City, and if you were putting Detroit possibly ahead of Baltimore. Ooh.
Baltimore's got a very good team as well. They got two of my favorite football players on there. Whether they should be rated number 2, I don't know. But they're a really good football team.
All right, so the Vikings got the Rams tonight on the road at SoFi Stadium that we flew over as we came into LA a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
What's going to happen tonight?
Oh, I don't know, but I heard a rumor today.
And what rumor is that?
That Matthew Stafford was, they're talking about trading him.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that to me in a Facebook message today that the Vikings should pull the trigger on this, and because there's really no guaranteed money after this year, and the Rams have already paid that money, so why not go pick them up? And I'm kind of like, all right, we've got a team that's 5-1, lost on a last-second field goal, and we want to upset the apple cart by bringing in a new quarterback? Now, some people might say, well, that's the piece of the puzzle we need to get over the top. Is Sam Darnold not the guy that might get us over the top?
No, I got to agree with you on this one. Somewhere along the line, Sam Darnold, he won that spot. And he beat other quality quarterbacks, and injuries are part of the game. But right now, no, I even if they brought in, Matt,
they brought in Stafford, they'd
have to play him. And so, no, I think they're fine right where they're at. And besides, quarterbacks, how much do they lend to the game?
Very little.
Yeah, no, he didn't play as well as he had in previous games, but he didn't play that poorly either. And and so as long as he has Aaron Jones, I mean, as far as I could see, the defense didn't play very well the second half, although they played pretty well the first, and they kind of fell apart. And my friend Ivan Pace, the second, snatched a touchdown, pick six coming up, and I mean, it was a lucky snap, but he got her, and
he got it.
And the game was exciting. If you weren't pulling for either team, you'd be screaming and shouting.
I had no problems. I had no problems with the Vikings.
No,
but did they bounce back and win tonight? Short week on the road.
Yes.
George says, no, don't sweat any details if you watch this.
No, they should win that. And so but it's on like 9:30, 10 o'clock out there, our time. And so I don't know what that does to the time. I might have to wait till the morning to watch it.
Well, no, it starts at 7:15 our time.
Oh, does it?
It's on. No, 7:15 tonight.
I understand, but I don't have that fancy channel.
Whoa, I understand. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So at 11:30,
well, just fork out the dough and pay for it.
Pay for it, he says. Pay for it.
No, not paying for it, not watching it. I'll listen to it on the radio. I'll listen to PA.
The radio announcers are pretty good. You know that. You're an old radio announcer yourself.
So that's well, I'm going to a hunter's banquet, so I'll be having it.
Right.
I'll getting updates on my phone or listening to it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Anything else pro football that you'd like to discuss from this past weekend?
You brought up KC, and I have to bring it up too. I mean, they really are an excellent football team, and until somebody knocks them off their hill,
and they're still adding to their team because they don't have any wide receivers, and now they're bringing in. Oh my gosh, Adams, right?
Yeah.
From Tennessee. Jeez. I don't know.
But they got a great running game, and they've got I think they have.
It's not Adams. That's not right. I can't.
They have excellent coaching.
They do have excellent coaching.
Yeah, and so they prepare that thing, and I mean, we like to say that Patrick Mahomes is the best ever and all the rest of that, but he's got an offensive coordinator up there he's John with, and although the offensive coordinator doesn't say pass the ball behind your back, and
DeAndre Hopkins.
Andre Hopkins, whoa, he's a flyer too.
So anyway,
no, I just think right now KC is the best. San Francisco finds himself in a unique rebuilding situation, and until they get McCaffrey back, and
hard to say that when you went to the Super Bowl last year that you're rebuilding.
yeah.
But without your horse, that's
And the
maybe the
horse hasn't
most.
played yet this year, and we're.
How did you feel about the ESPN Plus only game on Monday night? Seems how we just bashed Amazon.
Yeah.
Do we got to bash ESPN for putting a game on ESPN Plus only, meaning you could only watch it online again? I mean,
thing of it is, I get ESPN Plus.
I do as well, but I refuse to watch the game because it's the principal thing. I don't want to give them any extra numbers that Well, everybody's scoped onto ESPN Plus because pretty soon that's the way it's all going
I
to be.
get ESPN Plus because this Saturday I was able to watch North Dakota State. I was able to watch South Dakota State too because they played North Dakota State.
That game was on ESPN too, yeah.
And so, you watch these, and so that's why I have the ESPN Plus. North Dakota played, and that's good to watch. No, they didn't have UMD play, and it's just fun just as well with me.
Yeah, another tough loss for the Bulldog football team, and
what happens?
it happens. So you mentioned North Dakota State, South Dakota State. The Bison finally beat the Jackrabbits for the first time in six games,
Ooh.
5 years. So they were rated number 1 and number 2. If you didn't watch the game, Jackrabbits were number 1, and the Bison win at home. And it was an exciting game.
It was, and this is,
Kind of a slobber knocker.
It was a slobber knocker. In fact, I heard slobber knocker brought up by one of the announcers
Really?
this year.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a hard football game, and they both teams run well, both teams pass well, and both teams play really hard defense. And it's just you figure you got something going, and it's 2nd and 2, and you set it up, and the first thing you know, bam, it's 3rd and 3, and then bam, they just hit you so hard. And the Division I top schools, there's no doubt about it. These are hardcore athletes. And this FCS, so are they, and they do some great things. North Dakota State I bet you their defensive line didn't average 270 pounds, which is small.
And that's the difference.
And that's the difference.
You're getting those great players that aren't 290.
Yeah,
They're only 270.
Yeah. But they're really fast.
But they're really fast.
Yeah, and they can hit well, and so you get a little bit smaller athletes. But boy, I'll tell you, I set those guys up on my computer, and then I can watch any other game that's on. So.
Georgia takes down the old Longhorns on Saturday night.
They certainly did, and I think that the people in Austin, Texas, were a little bit crushed.
Like Pat McAfee and his Texas-sized belt buckle on Saturday.
Yes, yeah, Pat McAfee is one. Yeah, so
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey. When they say Matthew McConaughey for president, they're not messing around.
They're
they
honest.
are serious. Then and then I watched the number 1 game of the weekend, of course,
Which was?
Indiana and Nebraska.
He took a shot at me, everybody, by the way, via text message. He took a shot at me and said, "I told you so. You got to start listening to me," basically. Is basically what he said. And he's probably right. 56-7. What the flying beep is that?
Squad on them, and every time they, here Nebraska has an in. Maybe they can get an in. Maybe they just do this, and then Indiana would take it away and score again. And they just kept on doing that all afternoon. They've got a brand new program down there. They got a brand new coach. They got the PJ Fleck enthusiasm, and they got some pretty good athletes as well. The bad part is their Curtis Rourke is their quarterback, and he's a really good quarterback. He's out indefinitely because he broke his thumb.
Because he did what to his thumb?
He broke his thumb.
I think I saw the play that had happened on. He was bleeding from it. Early on in the game.
So right now we got Oregon. They're number 1. Ohio State's number 2, and then they have Penn State. And then Indiana, and then the other game that I'm looking forward to this week is Illinois is going to Oregon. And I'm telling you, and they shut down Michigan. These guys are tough. They can play tough.
What'd you think of the unis? Did you watch any of the Illinois?
Yeah. The Illinois unis were fantastic. They were all 1924 red grain unis with stripes on them and helmets that looked like leather straps.
The leather helmet look on the helmet. I loved it.
Oh, I
absolutely loved it. I thought when they said they were wearing special uniforms, I kind of like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. It was awesome. If you didn't see Illinois, go back and look. Illinois versus Michigan, awesome.
My wife came in and I says, look at these. They found a bunch of whole helmets and reconditioned them. And she's looking at them. She's looking at them. Did they really? Well, yeah, look at them. Well, those are new helmets. I says, yeah, they are. But you had
They
to
look
look.
real.
You had to look.
Whoever designed the paint job on them.
And that was 100 years from the time that Red Grange played in that stadium. And I believe he scored 4 touchdowns the first quarter. And they made a contribution. One of the sports writers, it might have been Gatlin Rice, said something about if there were 2 ghosts in that stadium to chase, and one was the spirit running around the stadium, the other one was the galloping ghost down on the main field, and that's where he got the name Red Grange, the galloping ghost. The Iceman, he carried ice. You see pictures of him when he's young. His upper body is just muscle, and a great man, a great. He came up here because he was Broncos' teammate for a long time.
He was.
So everybody around here, I always tell this story. My coach said to me, "You want number 77?" I says, "No, I want a different number." And he says, "77? That's Red Grange's number." I said, "Well, thanks, coach.
Good enough.
There you go. You're not getting another Grange."
All right, Illinois and Oregon. You were talking about. I interrupted you.
No,
so
I think Illinois is. They had a tough last couple of games, been tough games, and I think that this is going to be. They're going to come in. They might sting them.
Wow.
They might sting them.
And I think Oregon's going to come in and put a whopping on them.
Well,
And that's just because Oregon is the #1 team, and they need to make a statement. I mean, they did against Ohio State. Don't get me wrong.
and this would be a statement
This
for
would be
them
a
because
statement.
Illinois is a damn fine team, and but they're going to be fine.
I see our Gophers are still sitting at 9.
The Gophers are still sitting at 9, but I'll tell you what. They're going to have Maryland home for homecoming, and they're coming off of 2 great wins from the California teams. They're feeling good about themselves. Also, our friend Coy Perich has been nominated for Player of the Week, a Big Ten Player of the Week, and I have a note of him in here somewhere. He's a superstar. He is going to be one of the best running back or backfield guys we've ever had in Minnesota. There's no doubt about it. He's a star. To keep him around is going to be the key. It's the key to Coy.
My question is this. Where are the Gopher fans this weekend? Now, we sold out for Iowa. We sold out for USC.
Yeah.
Are we going to sell out for Maryland?
A lot of them are still coming back from California. So,
If we get a 3rd straight sellout for Maryland, then I will believe that people have bought in to the Gophers, and they're 4-3.
Yeah.
Nothing spectacular.
No.
But it's a 50,000 seat stadium. We should be selling that stadium out every game.
no doubt.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
No.
So,
Iowa. They're coming in and they're got. Who the heck they playing this? And they got a bye week.
yeah, losing to Michigan State, did they?
Beat them up.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin, Penn State's coming to Wisconsin, which might be.
That's gonna be fun.
5-2, and Penn State is. And they lost 1, I think.
I think they're 7-0, aren't they? 6-0. They're number 3 in the nation, right? 3 or 4 in the nation, right? 3 in the Big
6-0
Ten.
and 3-0 in the Big Ten.
So everybody's telling me that Penn State is not for real, and I may have to. I mean, yeah, they got lucky against USC. That will probably be agreed upon, but.
No, I think they're a good team, but Wisconsin's only given up 16 points this year. So, they're going to play tough defense. And I know, at Camp Randall Stadium, that can be a tough place to play.
It can be a tough place to play.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more than 45,000 in there. So, we'll see what happens.
More than 45,000 in there.
Yeah. Washington at Indiana, and they say they're going to try to crash Indiana's party. And,
Wish them good luck.
I think that number one, Indiana's just not a one-trick pony. They can do several different things. How much Mark's quarterback is another thing.
Could be a big change.
It could be the big thing.
Just like me, yeah.
Let me see. Michigan
UCLA
State.
won last week.
They did. What do you want? They're a good team. Let me see. What do we else?
Any given Saturday, isn't there? No,
Northwestern. Iowa plays Northwestern. That's who they play. And Rutgers plays USC. UCLA. Let me see. I think that 35-32 at Rutgers. I don't think they play this week.
Yeah, I will be back.
that was a 9 a.m. game for them, by the way.
Frank, you're
They
coming
played at
back.
11 a.m. our time, so UCLA went across the country, played at 9 a.m. So, anyway, if you think about their Pacific time.
Anyway,
What about Alabama, Tennessee? Did you watch any of that
I
on
did watch
Saturday?
Alabama and Tennessee, and Alabama's on a little bit of a rebuild, and there are weaknesses on this team. Not like Saban had. I mean, he had all the teams I ever saw were solid from end to end, and from quarterback to halfback. These guys were tough. There's some weaknesses on this team, and it's going to take a year or two to get that back.
Do you think it's just the head coach pushing the right buttons?
No, but he had to rebuild the whole coaching staff. They scattered all over. I mean, Saban's coaches are they got head coaching jobs all over America. Also, I don't want to take away too much from Tennessee because they were in Knoxville and the crowd was just bazonkers. And as soon as they thought that they had Alabama, it came as first you kind of potentially. I think we can beat them. I know we can beat them. We're going to beat them. By the time we're going to beat them, the crowd was just nuts. And so they had all that support, and Tennessee just couldn't give up from that point.
You know, I think we probably have been opponents to the major conferences. But the one thing that this has done is that it seems like every week now we get one or two major games where a 1 is playing a 5 or a 2 is playing a 3, and then we get a kind of a mini great game like a 5 versus a 9 or a 7 versus an 11. Because these major conferences, the Big Ten
Yes.
and the SEC, have all these high-ranked teams, and these teams have to play each other. So I may have to go back and reevaluate whether I like the Super Conference or not.
Well, yeah, I think that's a very good look, except that if you're sitting home and you have 4 televisions on Saturday, you're going to see football games from 11 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, and there's going to be a good game somewhere.
Okay, so, so I want to go to Sunday. I got the Vikings game on, right?
Yeah.
But then I've got volleyball on.
Yeah.
And Sunday night and Friday night, I've got women's basketball on while I'm doing all this other stuff. Last night at my mom's house, she says, here's the remote. She got done watching The Bachelorette, which was the first time I've ever watched that show. Oh my gosh, people.
Good thing they didn't have you on that show.
Holy Hannah. Anywho, she got done watching. She said, here's the remote. And she said, I'm sure there's something sports on that you want to watch. And I said, I don't know if there really is. So I started flipping through the channels, and there was NHL, NBA, college football, and college volleyball on. So guess which one I picked? I picked college volleyball. Because Middle Tennessee State and Jacksonville State didn't really thrill me. I didn't want to watch the Bucks and the 76ers. I watched a little bit of the Capitals and the Flyers. It was okay. I watched some of the third period, but I watched the end of Kansas and holy smokes, who were they playing? How can I forget? Anyway, to me, that's what it is.
Yeah,
That's
see,
what,
Gopher volleyball is played at our house. Period. So
and I didn't get to. We didn't have the Big Ten channel last night. Otherwise, that's what we would have been watching.
That was that's what they get to. She gets to watch downstairs. I better keep track of what's going on downstairs in terms of scores. So as it comes down, I can either come and talk to her about it, or ease her pain.
Yeah.
But
Fair enough.
yeah.
So where do we want to go next?
I don't know. Where you got?
Well, we got
Let's
time.
talk about the Broncos.
Well, we can talk about the Broncos.
Or What else?
Or we can talk about the Wild. We can talk about the
the Wild.
Timberwolves. We can talk about the Lynx
Let's
and how
talk
they got jobbed. We could talk about.
Oh, no, let's just stop. Let's stop our host right there. Did they get job?
I think so.
You think?
I think so.
Do you think that foul determined the outcome of the game?
The one that they reviewed and they still got wrong. You
Yeah.
mean that one? No, that didn't. No.
Okay.
Here's my whatever on that. There is no way that an objective person, and I'm pulling for the Lynx, but there's no way you can rewatch that play and tell me that the Minnesota player either hit Brianna Stewart on the arm or hit her hard enough in below the waist that there should be a foul called the way that game was being called. Okay, the next thing is go watch, and I know they couldn't review this, but go watch before the foul, the 5 steps that Brianna Stewart took. She took 5, I'm not kidding you, it's 5 steps. It's 4 for sure, but I counted 5. So where's the travel call? And then after that, I mean, there was time. Kayla McBride, and I love her, she's a great player, but she absolutely made a horrible mistake with 5.2 seconds left. She got an inbounds pass, and I don't know that she knew that the clock had been reset.
Yeah,
that it
that's
wasn't
true
at
either.
like 2 seconds, that she had 5.2 seconds because she turned and heaved it. She could have absolutely driven to the basket and either A, went to the foul line, or B, made a layup with maybe 2 seconds left. And again, I'm not blaming Kayla McBride, but there was that opportunity to win the game there. So having said all that, free throws 25-8 in an NBA or WNBA game, that's crap because both teams are playing. The fact that Nafisa Collier never went to the free throw line in the game,
That's weird.
and where she plays and where most of her buckets come from, with layups or near layups, seems impossible to me. So did they get jobbed? Yes. Do I think the fix was in? WNBA put out a tweet, an ex-post the other day, and it said, this was from the WNBA, the trophy is right where it belongs. And then people started complaining. They took the post down because how can the WNBA say that New York is exactly where? So was the fix in? Was the job in? And here is maybe the kicker of this whole thing. The guy who made the horrible call on the Brianna Stewart foul, he reffed game 3 and was on the airplane with Sheldon Slaybaugh out east on Wednesday morning, the night after or Thursday morning, excuse me, the night after the bad call, or after the game 3, and he made a couple of questionable calls in game 3 as well. And so Sheldon and his son were complaining about the officiating, and they found
didn't
out
know?
they didn't know that he was him, and they started talking with him. And so anyway, there was a discussion about that. So Sheldon.
Well, I watched all 5 games, and I thought it was a great series. Number one.
It was.
Number 2, the refereeing. Those women were hammering each other in there. If they would have called all the fouls that were going on for the first 4 games, the 3rd game was absolutely brutal. I mean, there was muggings going on down in New York, and so I guess that was the 2nd game. But those guys were just hammering each other, and I think that kind of they just let that flow into the 5th game. And it's
Everybody always says, let the players determine. The referees should put their whistles away. Well, for the most part, they did.
They did, and and the other thing is that there were a couple of, nobody likes Courtney Williams more than me. I think she's fun to watch. She's a wonderful basketball player. She couldn't buy a bucket.
They had to pull her out for almost 10.
They had to pull her out, and that's one of the leaders of the team. And in terms of,
Somebody suggested to me, was she on something? Because that's the way she was playing.
she was just wired, and it's just, but I'm
not blaming her. But it was just like she was playing, and it was just like, what's going through the head?
And McBride and Collier, they missed a lot of shots, and the ball just lifted over, and for a while the Lynx couldn't buy a shot. So offensively, they just weren't in the game. Now, if they were playing a 7-game series like they're going to be soon, this whole thing might have a totally different look. A 5-game series, has a certain sense of you know, you gotta go now. You're being pressured because one game, 2 games, it can be the whole series. 7 games, not so much. So you know, you got to be hustling. But
The future's bright, I believe, for the Lynx.
I think that's wonderful.
I think Cheryl Reeve,
She's a fantastic coach.
fantastic coach. She probably a lesser coach maybe would have gotten a severer fine or a fine for what she said the other day. From what I'm hearing, yeah.
And like Patrick Russi says, no matter what happens, interviewing the losing coach is always more fun than
Oh, I'm
interviewing the winner one. So
I can
then
believe that.
she was wired up. There was no 2 ways about it. I had never seen her like that, and you know, and so I although I know where she's coming from, I've
The
coached.
fix was in.
The fix was in.
Couldn't have New York go 28 years, 29 years without winning the championship.
Well, that's what my friend Spike Lee said.
So let's move over to the other basketball. Did you watch
Yes.
any of the Timberwolves the other night?
I caught a few minutes of it because I was kind of hustling through, but I had enough to see. I didn't see LeBron and his son on the court together, but I saw LeBron's son, and you know, he didn't play a whole lot, but he played a little bit, and they took down the Wolves.
Had a hard time containing Anthony Davis.
They have a hard time containing. Who doesn't?
Yeah, it was just one of those games. I watched the third quarter,
Yeah.
almost from the start to the finish, and then I had to turn it off because, no flow. We looked choppy. We looked uninspired is not the word. We looked like, well, we'll just turn it on at some point,
Well, you know,
and
I
we'll
think
win this thing.
If we want this flow, we got to wait till Thanksgiving. They've got to go 5, 6, 8 games. Although they've been playing basketball now for a month or so, so you know, but they're going to get used to not having the big cat there, and they've. You know, he's got to get used to. I mean, his performances, Knicks weren't exactly knockout, so everybody's going to have to adjust. But I think the Wolves are going to have a fine year.
At Sacramento tonight won't be any easy task out there, and of course, when you start on the road, that makes it a little more difficult. But hey, you got to go on the road. You got to do what you got to do. So
That's the way it works.
No panic yet.
No.
Minnesota Wild.
They're wild.
They don't lose in regulation. Took down the Stanley Cup champs the other night, 5-1.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Well, I don't know if it's easy because they have to keep this. You know, they play a brutal season, and how long has the season been going on?
That's play April.
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens. They got to work through a couple of things, and
Somebody sent me a GIF of the Stanley Cup the other night after they beat the Panthers, and I said, well, let's hope so. And they said, after watching this team, and I know Mike Bolstead, if he watches this show, is going to disagree because he put something out onto X that this is not a playoff team. You're dreaming if you think this team can win, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But you go into Florida, not at home, you go into Florida's house and you beat them 5-1.
no, and the thing of it is that you know, there's going to be people that are going to have the same view as Mike, but someday they're going to be wrong. I still believe that they have a good core hockey team here, and as long as they have Kaprizov, they've got a really good draw, and there's several other good hockey players on here, and they're young. They've got to shun a couple of contracts, and they're done with that this year. We'll see what happens from them.
They get the Ning tonight, so think about this now. The Wild start at 6, the Vikings start at 7:15, and then the Wolves, I think, start at 9 or 9:30. I can't remember which one it is. So if you can find some way to piece it all together, it's a busy sports night for the fans.
Well, that's
For Viking and Minnesota
so
fans,
it's
I
night
guess.
like this that when my wife walks in and gives me that dirty look, like, when are you going to go to bed? Type thing.
I'm not going to bed. Yeah.
Can you
So-
turn the speakers down? You know, no,
So.
she would never do that. But you know, it's one of the things where my wife is a great sports fan, and I said, what caused the Lynx to go down the other day? She says, that's easy. Poor shooting, couldn't hit free throws, and they missed a lot of offensive boards. And I thought, geez, she watches this game, you know, and
He's got it going on.
she's got it going on. So I says, were you disappointed in their performance over the series? No, they're good hockey team, basketball team. So, she's, I think that's kind of, you can't get too excited about these basketball teams because they're good teams.
The Loons did make the playoffs and didn't have to go through the play-in process. They are the number 6 seed. They're going to play the best of 3 series. I didn't realize that they had changed that. The best of 3 series against Real Salt Lake, which starts next Tuesday, the 29th. So the Loons are...
How do you spell that?
Real,
Yeah.
R-E-A-L, Real Salt Lake. I don't know why they got to call it Real, because that's how they say it over in football land over in Europe. But the Loons are one of the hottest teams in the MLS, and we're going to make a run. That's all I got to say. The Loons, get on the bandwagon, folks. They play at home, I think, on November 1st or 2nd. It won't be cold, will it?
Hard to say.
Hard to say. Yeah. Anyway,
Hard to say.
I know how you like those soccer games in the snow.
No, well, I mean, that one time was ridiculous. It wasn't in the snow. It was in the freezer. And then you bring up a team from Nicaragua. I heard that they had 3 frozen deaths on that team. Hard to say. Maybe that's
an exaggeration. All right, you wanted to talk about the Broncos.
Yeah, let's talk about
What do
it.
you want to talk about?
How many yards did Cooper rack up the other night?
I ended up with officially 295.
295. That's
33 for 295.
33 for 295. That's not bad.
4 touchdowns.
That's not bad either.
So yeah, that's a good productive evening. The final run, this final rush of the game.
Yeah.
The 39-yarder where he got basically. The guy kind of tried to come in and give him a side shoulder block like you would in wrestling, like bouncing off the ropes. And that's exactly what Cooper did. He bounced off the rope, and then he went 40 yards, basically the rest of the 40 yards for the touchdown, and
he's
put on the Jets.
He's got incredible balance. I mean, we talk about his quickness and his speed and all the rest of the strength. But what he does have is incredible balance, and that's why.
And he said on the radio the other morning after the game that Augie asked him, what's the best part of your game right now? He said, it's my vision. I can see where the holes are at and where they're going to be. That's a pretty good thing for a running back.
It really is, considering that he played a hardcore linebacker spot. He reminded me of Ivan Pace because he's so little. You didn't, bam, you come down and they start on piling. 44 is at the bottom of the pile, and he's got the legs. So defensively, what can you say? Kane Thompson's really, really hard to replace. In fact, I'm not sure you can do it. But for the most part, I think the kids have kind of stepped up.
Yeah.
And also, Moose Lake is they had him earlier this season. But and I know that beating a good team twice in one season is really, really tough because people make their adjustments. And so
that's going to be the great part of this game on Saturday afternoon down in Willow River is the adjustments. And of course, if you were doing this on paper, that experience of what Moose Lake has had to do over the last 18, 20 years with Dave Loshek at the helm, he's got an experienced staff that know how to make adjustments. So you would say, if you just, like I said, if you're looking at it on paper, that would be in favor of Moose Lake Willow River. But we'll see what the Bronco coaches come up with. And I think a telltale sign of what you need to do on Saturday, Moose Lake Willow River threw the ball one time against the Broncos, attempted one pass the last time. And when I talked to the Crosby-Arrington coach on Tuesday, they played Crosby-Arrington earlier in the season and threw this many times. So what does that tell you about this team? They have a quarterback who's not a quarterback. He's a running back.
He's a running back. In fact, I like quarterbacks that.
If you haven't been watching this show and you don't know that George likes quarterbacks who can run, you're not paying attention, folks. So get your head out of your Bronco volleyball season came to an end last night. Played at Proctor, number 1 seed. I just had our postseason meeting before. That's why we had to move our meeting back 15 minutes because the coaches wanted to meet today. And I told them, I said, you had the number 1 seed thinking. I mean, we led most of the second set. We led a good share of the third set. Didn't finish the deal, but the season didn't go the way that the Bronco volleyball team wanted to go. But I thought that they played at points in the game last night, played really well. I talked to one of the coaches in the section today at the section cross country meet. He used the word really, really scrappy.
Scrappy's good.
Scrappy is good. You know, if you could be that in volleyball, so yeah, I you know, like I said, record-wise, it wasn't the season the Broncos wanted, but that's what it was. So cross-country season came to an end today. As I mentioned earlier, nobody qualifying for the state meet, but another decent year for those kids. Lots of youth on this cross-country team. So these kids are going to continue to progress and get better. So we've got football and we've got girls swimming and diving left. The girls swimming and diving section November 7th and 9th. So they're in the taper. They're getting ready for the section meet, and of course the football team plays Saturday, and then girls hockey starts Monday.
You see, you're right into it. That doesn't take long.
Right back
Yeah.
into what we're doing.
That's
so
that's what winter's all about right now.
what else?
I just wanted to make mention that Dave Fisher and Barb Fisher were International Falls people. They give their kids. Drew and Derek were hockey players, and Danae was a basketball player. Bronco basketball players, hockey players. But he had an aneurysm, and he's down in Fargo. And Barb says that they got to wait. He's had surgery. And so we'll see what happens, but he had quite a day. So think about and get a hold of Dave Fisher if you want to. And also we have a couple of other things to go on. Bucky Munn, like 47 years, the wrestling coach at NDSU. He was about 5'2", and he wasn't a very big wrestler at the time, and then he kind of filled out. He was the nastiest, on the mat, he was one of the nastiest wrestlers I've ever seen. When I watched him, I used to go to his camps as a coach, and I'd go down there for 3 practices, and they'd just beat the heck out of me and then send me on my way. But he was a fine referee and an incredible Hall of Fame wrestling coach. Bucky, you've given me some great moments. And the World Series is going to start.
It is going to start.
With that, they had a sacrifice, Fernando Valenzuela. At 63 years old, and it's just like it seemed like only yesterday. You remember him? He picked up his leg way up in the air and let fly and
Throw that screwball.
threw that goofy screwball, and people couldn't hit it worth anything.
Yeah, I think 19 years old when he
was.
when he came in and pitched for the Dodgers.
He changed baseball in terms of how many immigrants from Mexico came into play, and he took over Los Angeles. He was just a hit. People there loved him and couldn't get enough of Fernando Valenzuela, and so. But he,
All right, so who's going to win the World Series? We as long before we wrap this thing up.
This has been an awful long time since the Yankees and the Dodgers have played in this World Series.
1981?
1981.
I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so do the Dodgers and the Yankees. I think that this series could go 6 or 7 games.
It will.
And I think the Dodgers are going to pull it out.
You hope that the Dodgers, you want the Dodgers, or you think the Dodgers? Is this coming from your heart to your brain? That's what I.
Hard to say.
Okay.
I'm not sure what kind of brain I have following this.
Somebody I asked today said, "There's no way I can cheer for the Yankees, but I don't really want to cheer for the Dodgers either. But I guess I got to cheer for the Dodgers." Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Thank you. That is just that.
On the other hand, I got to say this about the Yankees: they're a mighty fine baseball team. They got great pitching. They got a guy down there with a hammer, and they call him the Judge, and he wraps baseballs all over the place. They got a good team.
I had a thing come across my phone today. Should or should they not, the Dodgers, allow Shohei Ohtani to pitch in the World Series? And I kind of went, wow. That's an interesting.
I don't know where he is on his rehabilitation, but I will say this, that Dave Winfield was an incredible pitcher. And they decided that Dave Winfield was a lot better at hitting home runs. He wasn't a lot better, he was just better at it, hitting home runs. And so they never let him pitch. On the other hand,
Sheldon
Sonny.
Slaybaugh said today that that Otani says, I'm a pitcher who can hit. I'm not a hitter who can pitch.
Yeah, I think he might be right.
He went
Yeah.
50-50. I'm not a hitter who can pitch. I'm a better pitcher. Wow, well, that's a pretty tough statement.
It is a tough statement, and it's
I want to give a shout out to the Moe family. Mary Moe passing away earlier this week. Eric
best.
and Craig, wow, the best. One of the best ladies. If you never met Mary Moe, you missed out. She was a
both of my children had her in kindergarten.
Kindergarten
and I could
teacher
not have
here.
asked of anybody. She was amazing.
loved her spunk, loved her tenacity, but could do it with a smile, and you'd never know.
Just like her son Eric, who
Yeah,
we both coached, and we didn't coach anybody better than him.
I was not aware that she was not doing well, and so my sympathies to the Moe family this week. That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
So-
Absolutely.
Anyway, are we good for now?
I'm good. My notes are all taken care of.
I'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.